The sirens faded into the distance, but the echo of Rachel's voice still rang in my ears. There are more. And they'll be coming for you. I sat in the diner booth, the leather sticky with spilled coffee and the metallic scent of gunpowder hanging in the air. All around me, chaos was unfolding. Paramedics wheeled the wounded man out. Police officers cuffed Rachel and led her away, and terrified customers whispered among themselves. But I wasn't listening to them. My mind was racing. Who was they? Who was behind Rachel and that man? And why had they targeted me in the first place? Officer Lawson appeared beside me, his face grim. "We need to get you somewhere safe," he said quietly. Rachel gave us some names before she lost it. "They're dangerous people, Vanessa. More dangerous than you can imagine." I nodded numbly, still staring at the pool of dark coffee on the table. "Where?" "There's a safe house," he said. "We'll move you there. But not tonight. You need time to process everything. We need a plan." That night, I didn't sleep. I lay on the couch in my small apartment, my phone silent beside me, wondering if Rachel had been telling the truth. I kept replaying the moment in the diner, her trembling hands, the smirk she gave before pulling the trigger, the man's cold warning. Rachel wasn't acting alone. Someone had orchestrated this. Someone powerful. The next morning, Lawson picked me up quietly before sunrise. His car was unmarked, black. We drove in silence through deserted streets until we arrived at an old warehouse on the outskirts of Detroit. It wasn't much, just a large, gray building with boarded-up windows. But inside was another world. There were rooms filled with computers, surveillance equipment, and officers quietly moving about. They called it the hub. "This is where we'll keep you," Lawson explained. "We're tracking her associates. But Vanessa, if they know you're connected to Rachel, they won't stop." I nodded again, my chest tightening. But part of me felt a surge of determination. I'd survived once. I could survive again. Over the next days, the hub became my new home. I trained in self-defense, learned how to monitor surveillance footage, and worked with Lawson's team to gather evidence. But even in that bunker of safety, I could feel eyes on me. One night, while reviewing footage, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A man I didn't recognize, tall, wearing a dark hoodie, standing in front of my apartment weeks before the diner incident. And in his hand, a small camera. He had been watching me long before Rachel ever pulled a trigger. That discovery was bad enough. But what came next was worse. A notification popped up on my phone, a message from an unknown number. "You're running out of time, Vanessa. They know where you are." My heart pounded. Lawson came in when he heard the beep. He glanced at my screen, then his expression hardened. "This is no longer about Rachel. This is about them, the ones who sent her. And they're coming." Before I could ask who they were, the lights in the hub went out. We were plunged into darkness. And then, without warning, the faint sound of footsteps echoed through the building. They were inside. The lights cut out so suddenly I thought for a moment I had gone blind. 1 second, the hub was glowing with the hum of computer monitors and buzzing fluorescent bulbs. The next, total blackness. Only the faint red glow of the emergency exit signs painted the shadows on the walls. "Down," Officer Lawson barked, grabbing my arm and pulling me under a desk. His voice was low but sharp, the kind that made you obey without hesitation. I pressed my hands over my mouth to keep from gasping too loud. The sound of footsteps grew clearer, echoing off the cement walls. Slow. Methodical. Whoever was here wasn't rushing. They knew exactly what they were doing. Somewhere behind us, a radio crackled. "Unit 3, report," then silence, as if someone had cut the transmission. "They're jamming us," Lawson muttered under his breath. He drew his weapon, his eyes straining in the dim light. "Stay behind me. Don't make a sound." I nodded, my heart hammering so hard I was afraid it would give us away. The footsteps stopped. For a terrifying moment, the silence was louder than any sound. Then crash. A door on the far side of the hub slammed open. I flinched, biting down a scream. Voices floated through the darkness. Low, male, muffled. I couldn't make out the words, but I recognized the tone. Hunters closing in on prey. Lawson motioned for me to crawl. We moved on our hands and knees across the cold cement floor, slipping behind a row of filing cabinets. My palms were sweating, and every scrape of my shoes against the ground felt like it echoed through the whole warehouse. A beam of light cut across the room. A flashlight. It swept slowly over the desks, the computers, the walls. I froze, barely daring to breathe. The beam lingered on the filing cabinets, inches from where we hid, then moved on. My whole body trembled, but we kept crawling until Lawson pulled me into a small supply closet. He eased the door shut silently, then leaned close. "There's more than one," he whispered. "Probably 3 or 4. They came prepared." I swallowed hard. "Who are they?" Lawson shook his head. "Not sure yet. But they're not random thugs. Too organized." Through the thin walls, I could hear them moving. Drawers opening. Papers rustling. They weren't just here to kill us. They were searching for something. "What are they looking for?" I whispered. Lawson's jaw tightened. "Evidence. Files. Maybe even you." The footsteps drew closer again, heavy and deliberate. Then the closet door rattled. My blood turned to ice. I clamped a hand over my mouth as the knob turned slowly. Lawson raised his gun, fingers steady on the trigger. The door creaked open just an inch. Then another. A shadow loomed in the gap. And before I could process what was happening, Lawson lunged forward, shoving his shoulder into the door. It slammed against the intruder with a grunt, and chaos exploded. The man on the other side shoved back hard, forcing the door open as light from his flashlight blinded me. I screamed, ducking down, while Lawson fired. One deafening shot. The intruder crumpled against the doorway, dropping his flashlight with a clatter. But the gunshot was like a flare in the night. The others knew exactly where we were. Voices shouted. Footsteps thundered. Lawson grabbed my arm. "Run." We bolted out of the closet, sprinting past the fallen man. His mask slipped as we passed, and for a second I caught a glimpse of his face. He wasn't just some criminal. He was wearing a badge. An officer's badge. My stomach dropped. "They're cops?" I gasped as Lawson dragged me toward the back exit. Lawson's face was grim, his voice low but firm. "Not cops. Corrupt cops. The people Rachel warned you about." We burst through the exit door into the night air, but the sound of pursuit followed close behind. Engines roared. Tires screeched. Headlights flared to life in the parking lot. Black SUVs. They had us surrounded. The cold night air hit my face like a slap. For one heartbeat, I thought freedom was just steps away. But then the beams of headlights snapped on, blinding, fierce, trapping us like deer on the road. Engines rumbled low, like growling beasts. Black SUVs lined the lot, blocking every path. Their tinted windows reflected the faint glow of the street lamps, making them look soulless, mechanical. "They were waiting for us," I whispered, my throat dry. Lawson pulled me behind a concrete pillar by the loading dock. He kept his gun drawn, scanning the angles. They knew we'd run. This was a setup from the start. The SUV's doors opened in unison. Figures stepped out, tall, broad, dressed in black tactical gear. Their movements were smooth, practiced like they had done this 100 times. One of them lifted a megaphone. His voice boomed through the night. "Vanessa Carter. Officer Lawson. Step out now. Make it easy." My heart lurched. They knew my name. Lawson's jaw tightened. "Don't listen. They want us alive, for now." "For now," I whispered, clinging to the edge of the pillar. "They'll take you somewhere quiet. Somewhere no one will ever find you." His eyes locked with mine, steady but burning. "That's why we fight." The words hadn't even sunk in before bullets tore through the air. Crack. 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 Concrete shattered inches from my face. I screamed, ducking low as Lawson returned fire. Sparks flew from metal railings. The SUV's headlights flickered as shots struck glass. It felt like the whole world exploded into gunfire. Lawson grabbed my hand. "Move." We darted across the lot, zigzagging between shadows. Bullets chased us, sparks dancing at our heels. My lungs burned, but adrenaline pushed me forward. One of the men sprinted ahead, cutting us off. Lawson shoved me down just as the man's gun leveled. A flash. A bang. But before he could fire again, Lawson shot first. The man collapsed, his weapon skittering across the asphalt. We dashed toward the only gap in the barricade, a narrow alley between two warehouses. Just as we reached it, tires screeched. Another SUV swung sideways, blocking the entrance. The driver's door opened, and my stomach dropped when I saw who stepped out. Detective Harris. The same detective who had once told me he was on my side. The same man who shook my hand at the police station and promised justice. He stood tall, his badge gleaming faintly under the streetlights, but his smile was cold. Too cold. Well, well, Harris said, his voice smooth, mocking. You two are making this harder than it needs to be. Lawson raised his weapon instantly. Harris, you're a disgrace to the badge. Harris chuckled. And you're still naive. This goes deeper than you think. His eyes flicked to me. Vanessa, you could have walked away quietly, but you just had to keep digging, didn't you? Fear twisted my gut, but anger rose just as strong. You tried to kill me. You sent assassins after me. Harris shrugged, almost casual. Business. Nothing personal. The words stung worse than bullets. Before Lawson could fire, another wave of gunshots cracked through the night. Harris ducked behind his SUV, shouting orders to his men. Lawson dragged me behind a dumpster, shielding me with his body as bullets rained. We were pinned. Options. I gasped, my voice shaking. Lawson's eyes scanned the lot, sharp and calculating. Then he nodded toward the storm drains at the far edge of the pavement. If we can reach those grates, we can disappear underground. But it's a long shot. Another bullet whizzed past my ear, close enough to leave it ringing. I nodded quickly. A long shot is better than none. Lawson laid down cover fire, his gun barking in the night. I sprinted toward the drains, my legs pumping like fire. Asphalt blurred under me. My chest heaved, but I didn't stop. Suddenly, boom. An SUV exploded behind me, a fireball tearing through the parking lot. The blast knocked me to the ground, heat searing my skin. I coughed, smoke filling my lungs, as Lawson dragged me up again. Keep moving, he shouted. We dove toward the storm drain, just as another SUV erupted into flames. The ground shook beneath us, alarm screaming from every direction. And in that chaos, I realized something. Those explosions, they weren't caused by Lawson's gun. They were planted. Someone else was here. But the question burned in my mind as we slipped into the darkness of the drain. Were they here to save us, or kill us both? The storm drain swallowed us whole. Cold, damp air clung to my skin as Lawson slid the grate back into place above us. The roar of chaos from the parking lot grew faint, muffled by the thick cement walls. For a moment, only the drip of water echoed in the darkness. I leaned against the wall, my chest heaving, my ears still ringing from the explosions. My clothes smelled of smoke and gasoline. Lawson crouched low, gun still raised, eyes darting down the tunnel. His voice was steady, but his breathing was hard. Keep quiet. Whoever set those bombs might already be down here. That thought made my blood turn cold. The tunnel stretched out into blackness, lit only by the faint glow of Lawson's flashlight. The beam caught the trickle of water running along the floor, the graffiti scratched into the walls, the rats darting away into the shadows. We moved slowly, step by step. Every splash of water beneath my shoes sounded like thunder in the silence. My mind kept circling back to the explosions. If Harris and his corrupt team were hunting us, why would someone else blow up their SUVs? That wasn't protection, it was escalation. Lawson, I whispered, my voice trembling. What if we're walking right into another trap? He didn't answer right away. His jaw was tight, his grip firm on the gun. Finally, he muttered, "That's a risk we don't have a choice but to take." We rounded a bend and froze. Ahead, the tunnel glowed faintly orange. Not from flashlights. From fire. A line of flames flickered along the damp floor, contained in what looked like makeshift fuel cans. They weren't random. They were markers. Someone wanted us to follow. I shivered. It's like they're leading us. Lawson gave a grim nod. And the question is, to where? We crept forward, the firelight stretching shadows across the walls. My pulse hammered louder with every step. Then a voice. Low. Calm. Too calm. About time you made it. I spun, heart in my throat. A figure stepped out of the shadows at the end of the tunnel. Dressed in black tactical gear, face masked, but standing tall and still, as if they had been waiting all along. Lawson raised his weapon instantly. Identify yourself. The figure chuckled softly. Relax, officer. If I wanted you both dead, you'd still be burning in the parking lot. The words chilled me more than the cold tunnel air. Who are you? I demanded, trying to sound braver than I felt. The figure tilted their head. Slowly, they reached up, unfastening their mask. My breath caught when the face was revealed. It wasn't a stranger. It was Rachel, the very woman who had first warned me about the danger. The one who whispered that some cops weren't really cops, but something darker. Her hair was damp, her face streaked with soot, but her eyes gleamed sharp, determined. You, I gasped. You planted those bombs? Rachel's smile was faint, almost bitter. You're welcome, by the way. I just saved your lives. Lawson didn't lower his gun. Or you just made sure Harris couldn't have the satisfaction of killing us himself. Rachel's gaze hardened. You really think this is just Harris? He's small time compared to the ones pulling the strings. The silence that followed was heavier than the tunnels themselves. I swallowed. Then tell me the truth, Rachel. Why are you here? What do you really want from me? Rachel stepped closer, her boots splashing in the shallow water. She stopped just feet away, her eyes locking onto mine. What I want, she said slowly, is for you to live long enough to expose them. Because if you don't, they win. And if they win, people like me, people who already tried to fight, will stay buried forever. Her words hung in the air, sharp as knives. But before I could answer, before I could even breathe properly, the tunnel walls trembled. A deep rumble echoed through the ground. Lawson's eyes widened. That's not thunder. The ceiling above us cracked. Dust rained down. Somewhere in the distance, metal groaned like it was being ripped apart. Then came the sound I feared most, the roar of engines. They had tracked us underground, and this time there would be no easy escape. The ground shook beneath us. At first it was just a faint vibration, like distant construction. But then it grew stronger, rattling the storm drain walls, sending small chunks of cement clattering into the water at our feet. Engines roared through the tunnels, low and guttural, like mechanical beasts forcing their way into a place they didn't belong. They've got ATVs, Lawson muttered, his jaw tight. They're driving straight through the underground system. Rachel's expression didn't change, but I caught the flicker of unease in her eyes. They're faster than us down here. If we don't move, they'll corner us like rats. Fear surged in my chest, sharp and suffocating. Then where do we go? It's all tunnels. Rachel pointed toward a narrow passage barely lit by the fire markers. That way. It connects to the old subway shaft. They won't risk heavy vehicles there. Without waiting for an answer, she started running. Lawson hesitated, glaring at her back, then pulled me forward. Stay close. And don't trust her too quickly. Water splashed around our ankles as we sprinted. My lungs burned, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The engines grew louder behind us, echoing against the concrete. Shouts followed, orders barked, men yelling. Flashlights cut through the darkness. They're here. I cried, panic flooding my chest. Gunfire erupted. Bullets sparked off the tunnel walls, one ricocheting so close I felt the heat graze my cheek. Lawson returned fire, without breaking stride. Rachel threw something behind her, a small black sphere that rolled across the water. Seconds later, smoke burst out, filling the tunnel with thick, choking clouds. The gunfire faltered. The shouts turned to coughing. Go! Rachel barked. We tore down the passage, the smoke covering our escape. My legs screamed for rest, but fear pushed me faster. The tunnel narrowed until we had to duck, scraping shoulders against the damp walls. Finally, the ground sloped downward. Ahead, I saw a massive rusted gate. Beyond it was an open shaft, lit faintly by flickering lights that looked like they hadn't worked properly in decades. The old subway. Rachel yanked at the gate, muscles straining, until it creaked open enough for us to squeeze through. Lawson pushed me in first, then slipped inside himself. Rachel followed last, forcing it shut again. The sounds of engines faded behind the gate. For the first time in minutes, silence fell. I collapsed onto the cold cement, gasping for breath. Sweat dripped down my temples. My heart thudded like it would never slow. Rachel crouched in front of me, her voice steady. You see now, Vanessa? Harris isn't just a bad cop. He's part of a machine. A machine that wants to bury the truth about where that money really went. I frowned, still fighting for air. The money? You mean the money I loaned? Rachel nodded. It's not just about your friend anymore. That loan opened doors they didn't want opened. And now they'll kill you before you connect the dots. Lawson scowled. And you conveniently know all of this, huh? How do we know you're not feeding her lies? Rachel's gaze sharpened. Because I already lost everything to them. My partner. My career. My freedom. You don't have to believe me now. But soon, you'll see it with your own eyes. Her words sent a chill through me. Before I could respond, a faint beeping echoed through the shaft. Slow. Repetitive. Out of place. Lawson stiffened. What's that? Rachel's eyes widened. Too much. Too fast. It's a tracker. Lawson snapped, realizing first. He spun toward her. You brought them here. My breath caught in my throat. Rachel? Is that true? Rachel raised her hands defensively, but I saw the guilt flicker across her face. It's not what you think. I had no choice. They're watching me. Watching. Lawson growled. Or controlling? Before she could answer, the tunnel shook violently. Explosions rippled from behind us, closer this time. The corrupt cops were coming. And the woman who just saved us might also be the reason they could find us at all. The walls of the subway shaft trembled as another blast thundered through the tunnels. Dust rained from the cracked ceiling, choking the air, making every breath feel like swallowing ash. They're close. Lawson shouted over the rumble. His hand clamped around my wrist, pulling me away from the flickering lights deeper into the shaft. We have to move. But I wasn't moving. My eyes were locked on Rachel. She stood frozen, her face pale under the grime, her hands still raised. The faint beeping from the tracker in her gear echoed like a countdown. You lied to us, I said, my voice trembling but loud enough to carry through the chaos. You told me you were helping me, protecting me. I was. Rachel cried, desperation breaking through her calm mask. Vanessa, listen to me. They forced me to carry this tracker. If I didn't, they'd kill me before I could even get near you. I'm trying to save you. Lawson snarled. Save her? You just painted a target on her back. Another explosion tore through the tunnels behind us, closer this time. The ground shook so hard I stumbled into Lawson's chest. He steadied me, eyes locked on Rachel with cold fury. Vanessa, he said, his voice firm, urgent. We leave her. Now. Rachel's eyes widened, raw fear flashing across them. No. Please don't do this. If you leave me here, I'm dead. They'll. Maybe you deserve it. Lawson cut in sharply. His gun was still trained on her chest. I felt my stomach twist. I could hear the engines echoing through the tunnels, the shouts of men closing in, the sound of boots slamming against cement. Every instinct screamed to run. But another part of me, the part that had once believed in kindness, in helping people no matter how broken they were, hesitated. Rachel's gaze locked onto mine. Vanessa, you know me. You know I wouldn't risk my life pulling you out of the hub just to betray you now. Please. If you walk away, you'll be no better than them. The weight of her words crashed over me. Lawson leaned close, his voice sharp in my ear. This is a trick. She'll drag us down with her. We can't trust her. My chest heaved, my heart pounding against my ribs. Smoke curled in the air, the sound of the corrupt cops drawing nearer. I had to decide. And then I did. I stepped toward Rachel. Lawson's eyes widened in disbelief. Vanessa, what are you doing? I lifted my trembling hands and grabbed the strap of Rachel's tactical vest. With one hard yank, I tore the small black tracker loose. The beeping grew louder in my hand, like a beating heart. Rachel gasped. Wait, Vanessa. But I didn't hesitate. I hurled the tracker down a side tunnel as far as my arm would allow. The sound echoed, bouncing deeper into the maze of underground passages. For a moment, silence. Then the footsteps and shouts veered away, chasing the signal. Lawson cursed under his breath, lowering his gun but not his glare. You just saved her. But if she betrays us again, Vanessa, I won't give you another chance to choose. Rachel's breath shook as she looked at me, gratitude and shame warring in her eyes. You don't know what you've just risked for me. I steadied my voice, though fear still clawed at my throat. I know. But I won't become like them. I won't throw someone away just because it's easier. We pressed deeper into the abandoned subway shaft, the dim lights flickering as if they might die at any second. The silence was broken only by our footsteps and the faint dripping of water. For a moment, I thought maybe we had bought ourselves time. But then, a voice echoed through the tunnels. Not Harris. Not one of his men. A woman's voice. Calm. Confident. Well, Vanessa Carter. Finally brave enough to play the game. We froze. The sound came from ahead, deeper in the shaft. And as the shadows shifted, I saw her. A tall woman in a sleek black coat, her hair tied back, her heels clicking against the cement floor as if she owned the underground itself. Rachel's face went pale. No, not her. Who is she? I whispered, my skin prickling. Rachel's lips barely moved, but the words cut sharp. She's the one who runs them all. The sound of her heels echoed like a metronome against the hollow subway shaft. Click, click, click. She walked toward us slowly, not rushing, not afraid. That was what chilled me most, the confidence. Every movement of hers screamed control. Power. Lawson raised his weapon instantly, standing between me and her. His voice was a low growl. Stop right there. The woman didn't even flinch. Her lips curved into a faint smile. Still following the rules of your little badge, Lawson? Cute. But pointless. Her eyes flicked past him and landed on me. A sharp, piercing stare that made me feel stripped bare. Vanessa Carter, she said softly, savoring my name. You've caused quite the ripple. All over $79,600. Who knew such a small debt could unravel something so big? My throat tightened. Who are you? Rachel's voice cracked before the woman could answer. Her name is Cassandra Drake. She's not just one of them, she is them. Drake's smile deepened. Oh, Rachel. Always so dramatic. But not entirely wrong. Lawson's grip on his gun tightened. You're the one bankrolling Harris. You're the reason she's being hunted. Drake tilted her head, amused. Bankrolling? Try orchestrating. You think Harris acts without my blessing? No. He's useful because he obeys. And because men like him are easy to control. Her gaze returned to me, sharp as a blade. But you, Vanessa, you're different. You've survived every attempt to erase you. You've exposed cracks I worked very hard to seal. I forced myself to speak, though my voice shook. Why? Why go this far over money that wasn't even yours? Drake's smile faded into something colder. It's not about the money. It's about what the money touched. That loan you gave your so-called friend? It ended up funding channels that were never meant to see daylight. Shell companies. Offshore accounts. Names that should have stayed hidden. And now, because of you, eyes are turning toward places they should never look. Her words hit like a weight, heavy and suffocating. This wasn't about betrayal anymore. This was about power and secrets worth killing for. Rachel stepped forward, her voice trembling but defiant. Vanessa, don't listen. She'll twist everything. That's what she does. Drake's eyes flicked to Rachel, sharp with disdain. And you, my little runaway. You were supposed to stay buried. Instead, you drag her into this mess. Rachel flinched, but didn't move back. Lawson shifted his stance, his gun unwavering. We're leaving. Now. Drake's laugh was soft, dangerous. You're not leaving unless I let you. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then Drake's tone shifted, smoother, almost playful. But I'm not unreasonable. Vanessa, I'll give you a choice. You can come with me willingly. Work with me. In exchange, I'll call Harris and his dogs off. You'll live. You'll even get the truth you're so desperate for. Her eyes gleamed. Or, you can keep running. And I promise, the next time my men catch you, they won't miss. Lawson bristled, his voice sharp. She's not making any deals with you. But Drake didn't even look at him. Her eyes never left mine. And in that moment, I felt the walls closing in. I thought of the assassins, the bombs, the endless chase. How many more times could I outrun death? How many more people could I drag down with me before someone didn't make it out alive? Rachel's voice cut through my spinning thoughts. Vanessa, don't do it. If you take her hand, you'll never get free again. Drake extended her gloved hand, her smile cold and steady. Choose, Vanessa, she said. Do you want to live as prey or as my partner? My chest heaved. Lawson's glare burned into me. Rachel shook her head desperately. But Drake's hand waited. And I knew whatever choice I made now would change everything. Her hand hovered in the dim light, steady, unshaking. I stared at it, my breath shallow, my chest tight. Everything in me screamed, don't touch her. Yet another voice whispered, what if this is the only way to survive? Lawson's gun didn't move. His voice was sharp, urgent. Vanessa, don't you dare. She's poison. Rachel stepped closer, desperation etched on her face. You think she'll spare you? No. If you take her hand, she'll own you. Forever. But Drake's calm stare pierced me deeper than their warnings. You've already seen the truth, she said softly. No one else has protected you. Not Lawson. Not Rachel. They've kept you alive for their reasons. I can keep you alive for yours. The tunnel seemed to shrink around me. My pulse thundered in my ears. I thought of the assassins. Of Harris. Of the black SUVs. Of the constant running. How long before my luck ran out? For one terrible second, I almost stepped forward. But then, I saw something in her eyes. A flicker. A glint of satisfaction, like a predator watching prey finally surrender. And in that instant, I snapped back. No, I whispered, my voice shaking but firm. I'd rather die than be your partner. Drake's smile faded. Slowly. Dangerously. So be it. She snapped her fingers. From the shadows behind her, figures emerged, half a dozen men in black tactical gear, rifles raised. Their boots splashed in the shallow water, surrounding us in a perfect arc. Lawson shoved me behind him, his voice fierce. Stay down. Gunfire erupted. The tunnel exploded with noise, flashes of light cutting through the dark. Bullets slammed into the walls, sending shards of concrete flying. Lawson fired back, his jaw clenched, every shot deliberate. Rachel pulled a pistol from her vest and joined him. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space, each shot echoing until it felt like the air itself was cracking. I ducked low, covering my head as bullets sparked inches away. My ears rang. My heart pounded so violently, I thought it would tear out of my chest. One of the men lunged too close. Lawson spun, striking him across the face with his gun before firing point-blank. The man crumpled into the water. Rachel grabbed my arm, yanking me up. We have to move now. But before we could, Drake's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and commanding. Bring her to me alive. Two men broke from the fight, charging straight at me. I stumbled back, my screams swallowed by the thunder of gunfire. One grabbed my arm, yanking hard. His grip was iron-crushing. Vanessa! Lawson roared, firing again. The man holding me snarled, dragging me toward Drake. Panic flooded me, hot and suffocating. I kicked, clawed, but he was too strong. Then Rachel appeared at my side, slamming her pistol into his temple. He staggered, grip loosening just enough. I wrenched free and stumbled back into Lawson's arms. But in the chaos, Drake was gone. The woman who moments ago demanded my choice had vanished into the shadows, her men still fighting like loyal hounds. Lawson cursed under his breath, firing at the last of them. She's pulling back. She doesn't need to kill us here. She'll try again. Rachel's chest heaved as she lowered her gun. Her eyes flicked to me, tense. You just made yourself her #1 target. There's no turning back now. I wiped the blood from my lip, my hands trembling. I wasn't going to sell my soul to her. Lawson nodded, but his face was grim. Then we'd better get ready. Because next time she won't come alone. The last echoes of gunfire faded. The tunnel was littered with shell casings, bodies, and the acrid smell of gunpowder. I thought it was over. But then, from the far end of the shaft, a new sound rose. Not engines. Not footsteps. Voices. Many voices. Chanting, low and rhythmic, carrying through the dark. Lawson stiffened. Rachel's face drained of color. What is that? I whispered. Rachel's voice cracked with dread. The ones even Drake can't control. The chanting grew louder. It wasn't English. The syllables rolled together in a strange rhythm, echoing off the damp concrete walls. It felt ancient, older than the city, older than anything I could understand. Lawson raised his gun, eyes narrowing. Rachel pressed her back against the tunnel wall, her knuckles white around her weapon. I clung to the dripping brick, my breath quick and shallow. Who are they? Rachel's voice was barely a whisper. They're not assassins. They're not agents. There's something else, something the files barely mentioned. Files? I hissed. What files? Her lips tightened, but before she could answer, figures emerged from the darkness. Torches flickered in their hands, throwing long, dancing shadows across the walls. There were at least 20 of them, men and women, hooded, their faces hidden, their feet bare against the wet stone floor. They moved in unison, their voices rising and falling like waves. And, at their center, a tall man, his hood lower than the others. His face was pale, lined with scars, his eyes glowing with an intensity that froze me where I stood. He carried nothing, no gun, no knife, yet every person around him seemed to orbit him, like planets drawn to a burning sun. When he spoke, his voice silenced the chanting at once. You've wandered into sacred ground. The silence was suffocating. Even the dripping water seemed to pause. Lawson stepped forward, gun raised. Who are you? The man's lips curved in the faintest smile. We are the Circle. And you, Vanessa, his gaze slid to me unblinking. You are the reason we've been waiting. My stomach dropped. Me? Why? He tilted his head, studying me the way a hunter studies prey. Because your bloodline holds the debt Cassandra Drake could never pay. Rachel's sharp intake of breath betrayed her shock. No, that can't be. The man's smile deepened. Oh, she never told you? Of course not. She never tells anyone. But you, Vanessa, you carry the mark. And it is to us that you belong. The circle around him began to hum, their voices vibrating through the tunnel, low and menacing. Panic surged in my chest. What are you talking about? I don't owe you anything. I didn't even know you existed until 5 minutes ago. The leader stepped closer. The torchlight caught the scars on his cheek, jagged lines that looked more like brands than wounds. You were never meant to know. But Drake awakened the debt when she tried to claim you. And now his smile vanished. Now you must be taken. Lawson didn't wait. He fired. The shot echoed like thunder, but before the bullet reached its target, the air shimmered. I swear it shimmered. The man raised his hand, and the bullet fell to the ground, flattened, as if it had struck an invisible wall. I froze. My heart stopped. What the hell? Lawson muttered, stepping back. Rachel grabbed my arm, pulling me away. We can't fight them. We have to run. Now. The circle's humming grew louder, faster, vibrating in my bones. The torches flared as though feeding off the sound. I stumbled after Rachel, Lawson covering our retreat with desperate shots that meant nothing now. The bullets bounced, sparks flying. The leader didn't even flinch. We sprinted through the tunnel, water splashing under our feet, our lungs burning with panic. But no matter how fast we ran, their voices followed. The chanting grew louder, closer, like the darkness itself was chasing us. And then the ground shook. The tunnel walls groaned, dust raining down from above. Ahead, the ceiling cracked open with a roar, bricks collapsing. The way forward was caving in. Lawson shoved me hard, his voice a bark. "Move, Vanessa. Don't stop." We dove forward just as the tunnel behind us crumbled into a storm of rock and dust. Silence followed. The chanting was gone. We lay sprawled on the wet ground, coughing, shaking, every muscle screaming. Rachel lifted her head, her face streaked with dirt and sweat. "They're not gone. They'll find another way." Lawson nodded grimly, wiping blood from his brow. "And next time, they won't let us run." I pressed a trembling hand to my chest, still feeling the vibration of their voices in my ribs. "What did he mean, Rachel?"
About me?
"About a debt." Her face went pale. She opened her mouth to answer, but a loud, metallic clank cut her off. We froze. The sound came again, echoing down the tunnel. Heavy, mechanical. Lawson swore under his breath. "That's not them." Out of the darkness ahead, a spotlight snapped on, blinding us. A voice boomed from behind it, amplified by a speaker. "Federal agents. Drop your weapons and get on the ground."
Now.
The spotlight burned into my eyes, so bright it felt like needles stabbing through my skull. I threw my arm up, squinting through the glare. "Federal agents. Drop your weapons and get on the ground." The voice thundered again. Rachel's pistol trembled in her grip. Lawson's jaw clenched, his gun still raised. I whispered, panicked. "What do we do? Lawson, what do we do?" "They're not supposed to be here," he muttered. His eyes flicked from the light to Rachel. "Either they're late to the party, or they're not who they say they are." Rachel cursed under her breath. If they were real, they'd have swept this tunnel before Drake or the Circle ever got here. Another bark came from the darkness. "On the ground. Now, or we open fire." The click of rifles echoed behind the spotlight, sharp and certain. Lawson growled low in his throat. "They're boxed us in. Either we play along or we're dead." He lowered his weapon slowly, sliding it across the wet ground. Rachel's eyes burned with fury, but she followed. "Hands where we can see them." I dropped to my knees, my palms raised high, my chest tight. My mind screamed, "Don't trust them. Don't trust anyone." Boots thundered forward. Shadows moved behind the beam of light. At least 10 men, maybe more, rifles steady, armor heavy. Their faces were hidden behind black helmets. One stepped forward, the leader. His voice was calm, clipped. "Vanessa Cole?" Hearing my name froze me more than the barrel of his rifle aimed at my heart. "Yes," I whispered, my voice barely audible. He nodded once. "You're coming with us." Lawson surged forward. Like hell she is. 2 rifles immediately swung toward him. Rachel grabbed his arm, yanking him back before he was shot on the spot.
"Don't," she hissed.
"Not yet." The leader's head tilted. "We don't want the rest of you. Just her." The words hit me like ice water. "Just me?" Rachel's voice cracked.
"Why?"
"What do you want with her?" The leader ignored her. He took another step closer, the spotlight cutting across his helmet, revealing only a pale jawline beneath. "Vanessa Cole," he repeated, his tone colder now. "You've been marked. And by federal order, you belong to us." Belong. The word dug into me, sharper than any blade. I stumbled back, shaking my head.
"No."
"No, I don't belong to anyone." His silence was worse than any threat. And then from the shadows behind him, movement. Figures. Silent. Hooded. The Circle. They had found another way through. Lawson saw them first, his eyes widening. "We're not alone." Rachel whipped around, her pistol snapping back into her hand despite the rifles pointed at her. Oh God. The agents turned, realizing too late. The chanting rose again, swelling through the tunnel, the torches flaring with unnatural heat. The circle surged forward like a living tide, crashing into the armored agents with impossible strength. Rifles barked, torches flared, screams filled the tunnel. Chaos erupted. Lawson shoved me hard toward the darkness. Run, Vanessa. Run. But I froze. Because through the chaos, through the gunfire and chanting, I saw her. Cassandra Drake, standing at the edge of the battle, her face calm, untouched by the madness she had unleashed. Her eyes locked on mine, and she smiled.